Wow, I was wiping my face. All right, welcome everybody. I didn't realize I was going to be that fast. Welcome everybody. It is Friday, June 26, 2020. We're starting our show almost at 6 o'clock because we're getting everybody primed. We got to get everybody used to, again, our regular start time, because we're going to be back in our studio on Monday. So for pop-up pandemic quarantine, we would promote that we start our show at 4:30 in the afternoon Eastern Standard Time, and we usually start sometime after 5:15, because that's Bradshaw Live 4:30 time. And now we're going to be back in our studio. So our last, hopefully, I mean, things could change if our pandemic gets worse. Things could change. We could be back in quarantine. We could be back here in Uncle Brad's dining room. But right now, as of this moment, our plan is we're going to be back in studio with Yo-Yo and Nesquik on Monday. So we got to get everybody used to our regular start time, which is 5:30 Eastern Standard Time, which is about 6 o'clock Bradshaw Live time. All right, let's say hello to the squad. I'm not organized here today. I don't know why. Let me move this over here. Mintu Saab saying hello, sir. You ate awesome. I assume he wants to, or she wants to say, you are awesome, but it reads, I ate something awesome. So yes, I've been eating, as you can see. Fat face. I gotta get on a diet. Sure, blessed, highly favored parents. Squad up. Latoya, his forever Peterson, still with him. Forrest Mushy, squad up. How are you? Rahendra Bissy R, how are you? Marcia McCullough. Christy Kinsali, happy Friday, Christy. Mitzi McFarlane wants to know where I was yesterday. You had me waiting like Bob Marley sang about. You know what happens is sometimes, I'll be honest with you, it wasn't planned that way. I just got so busy at work that I didn't finish up my consultations till well after almost close to 7 o'clock yesterday. So as a result, it was just person after person I had to speak to. And, I'm a lawyer. So sometimes law calls, and as much as I want to do the show, we just I kind of got backed up on my day. So I apologize, but I am back here today. Moya Douglas, squad up. How are you? Dainty Chili Right, squatting in. Not only is she squat up, she's saying hello, squat up, but she's squatting in, which is basically she's coming in to hang out with the squad. I guess that's what squatting in means. We have to figure out what all these different I guess squadisms mean. But squatting in, well, squadism is another meaning, but squatting in, I think, means, but you can tell me if that's what it means. You can tell me if that's what it means. I believe squatting in would mean that you're coming in to hang out with the squad. Let's say hello on YouTube. What's going on YouTube? Daniel K. Welcome back, Brad. Chanfel saying hi, Uncle Brad. Keep up the good work. Alim Aga saying hello. Carol, the Top Cat Tigress 2 Anderson saying hello. And we don't have a lot going on YouTube right now. Not a lot of people saying hello, but we do have 15 or 16 thumbs up. And I do got to remind everybody to please share and this, because we will be answering your immigration questions very, 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 very shortly. And the immigration questions you're going to be at, oh, I got to shut this off. Why are people texting me? Why would Mr. Moreno text me when he knows I'm on the air? But nevertheless, Mr. Moreno, stop it. And nevertheless, I gotta remind everybody to please share this on Facebook, and please share this on YouTube. There's different ways to share on Facebook. There's a share button on the corner left of your phone, and you can start a watch party. You can copy the link into somebody else's onto your own. You can copy a link and put it on your own timeline. You can send a copy of the link to somebody, whether it's in Messenger or WhatsApp. And the same on YouTube. You can share this on YouTube by sending a copy of this link on Twitter, Facebook, Blogger, Reddit, Tumblr. They give you about 100 different ways to share this. You can also share it on your WhatsApp. What I also appreciate people do is if they give me a thumbs up on YouTube. The thumbs up, there's a blue, or it's actually gray. Most people are looking at a gray thumb right now, and you would turn that gray thumb blue if you like our show. In addition, I got to remind everybody that if you do subscribe on YouTube and you follow and like us on Facebook, you can join our Brad Squad. And if you join our Brad Squad, you will get amazing VIP content. I promise you, that content is coming. A lot of the Brad Squad saying, what content are you getting? It's coming. I promise you it's coming. And also, if you follow us on Brad Show Live, on Instagram, and you find, what is our contest this week, Lee, on Brad Show Live? The contest is you find the photo of me holding our award for Best Live Video Series at Synopsis. You tag that with 5 of your friends. You like that post, and you can be put into my old scratchy hat that I may pick you out for a free consultation valued at $200. Please leave your immigration questions in our comment section. If you leave your immigration questions in our comment section, I'll answer them in a few minutes. Finally, there is a telephone number at the bottom of your screen. It's a scrolling number. It says call Brad for a consultation at 1-800-529-5465 or internationally 1-212-227-8933. You may be wondering why we scroll that. Well, a lot of people say, Brad, how do I get in touch with you? So we make it very, very obvious how you can get in touch with me. You just call that number, and then you speak to one of our secretaries, and she will put you on my list to give you a call. Either I work 6 days a week on Saturday or Monday or Tuesday, or whenever you would like to get a telephone call from me. As we started a little late today, let me go right into something that we like to call schmoozing with Brad. All right, so the Supreme Court today ruled that people who are seeking asylum, many of them have no right to a federal court hearing to determine whether or not their credible fear interview was determined properly. So what happens is it was a 7-2 decision, and I'll break it down for you in a second. It's a 7-2 decision. It allows the Trump administration to basically fast track the removal process and deportation of thousands of immigrants. At issue is whether a federal immigration law that aims to reduce meritless asylum claims through expedited processing violated immigrants' due process rights under the Constitution. So what happens is when you apply for asylum, whether it's at the border or at an airport, or you've entered the United States and then subsequently apply for asylum, you get what's called a credible fear interview. And the credible fear interview is mostly done at the border or in the airport. And you have to make some sort of claim that under law, if you're able to prove the facts, they're not asking you whether or not prove these facts or not. They're just making a claim. And an officer says, if he can prove these facts, would this person be able to be granted asylum? So as long as you make some claim under law that your life would be in danger because or your life you would be persecuted if you were returned home because you're part of a group that is being persecuted, that would make you eligible to pass your credible fear in an airport situation or in a situation where you're at the border applying for asylum. So, for example, let's say you come to the United States and you apply for asylum and you say, I'm making this up, I have no idea. I'm from Jamaica, and if I'm a homosexual, and if I return to Jamaica, they persecute homosexuals in Jamaica, and I'm going to get beat up. I may be killed. I may be tortured. That would pass a credible fear interview because you're part of a group that is being persecuted. Now, take the same person. I come from Jamaica. I'm applying for asylum because I can't get a job in Jamaica. Well, that's not a claim for asylum. You wouldn't pass your credible fear interview, and you would get deported. So what they're saying, what this Supreme Court decision is saying, is that these credible fear interviews at the airport and at the border, they cannot be appealed into federal court. It's now up to a judge or an immigration officer to determine whether or not you pass that credible fear. You just have to make a colorable claim for asylum. So for those who are thinking about coming to the United States to a border to apply for asylum, you got to think ahead of time. What are you going to say in order to pass your credible fear interview? Other than that, they may deport you right there on the spot. Now, Justice Samuel Alito wrote for the majority, the court long ago held that Congress is entitled to set the conditions for an alien's lawful entry into this country, and that as a result, an alien at the threshold of initial entry cannot claim any greater rights under the Due Process Clause. So basically what they're saying is the Constitution does not apply. It's always been like that. The Constitution does not apply until you make an entry into the United States of America. It's the same thing when you come to the United States and they summarily exclude you or summarily deport you at the airport. It's called the summary removal hearing. You have a bad visa. You have a criminal record. You've made a misrepresentation. You don't have a right to see a federal judge. You don't have a right to even see a lawyer until you enter the United States of America. Only after you pass immigration, and you step foot in America does the Constitution count for you. And I think this Supreme Court decision is an extension of that, in essence, saying that the Constitution does not apply until you get past the airport or until you get past the border crossing. Now, Donald Trump also today, as of April 22nd, he changed the work permit rules for asylum. So if you apply for asylum now, up till August 22nd, you have to wait 150 days to apply for a work permit. Now it's going to be 1 year. So if you apply for asylum, you cannot apply for a work permit for 1 year. You have to basically live, day to day. I don't know how you would live. How would somebody live without a work permit, without getting a job? Well, lots of people do it. Obviously, you're working illegally. You're working off the books. But now, part of this rule changes if you're applying for asylum and you work illegally and you don't pay taxes on that illegal employment and then apply for a work permit. Not only are you going to be denied the work permit, but you're going to be denied asylum for not paying taxes on that illegal employment. And then a lot of people are going to say, well, how do you pay a tax without a social security number? I mean, it gets extraordinarily complicated. And as a result, all of this is designed by Donald Trump to prevent people from applying for asylum, just like what they do at the border where they meter you. They say, we're only going to have a certain amount of credible fear interviews on any particular day. So all of this is designed by Donald Trump to basically end asylum to the United States, make it so difficult for people to apply for asylum, make it so difficult for people to live here. When they apply for asylum, the people just pick other countries to go apply for asylum. And it's all extraordinarily sad. But the good news is we have an election coming up. And we'll be talking about that in a little bit. Meanwhile, Trump, a federal court in California said that Trump cannot divert money from the Pentagon to build a wall on the U.S.-Mexico border. In a 2-1 ruling, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals said the transfer of $2.5 billion circumvented Congress, which holds the authority to appropriate money. The legal fight over the Defense Department funds stems from Trump's national emergency declaration on the U.S.-Mexico border last year. He said it's a national emergency, and because we are being invaded by immigrants on the border, which we weren't, but because we are, it was a made-up thing, I'm diverting funds for our national security to the border to build a fence. Well, there is no more national emergency right now. There's not a lot of people on the border. There may be a few, but not as many as was under the second Bush, certainly not as many under Obama. And the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals said that it is the Congress that decides where the money is spent, not President Trump. And that kind of, goes to Trump's whole entire thing. He just grabs power and nobody says anything. He takes money that's supposed to go to the military. Our Congress gave money to the military, and he just takes it for whatever he wants. And it's similar to what he did with this this executive order ban on immigration, banning groups of people. I don't know where in the law it says that he's allowed to do this. I was just having a conversation with Moshe, the bulldozer, earlier this week. And I was saying to him, and he's our personal injury attorney, where does Trump get the power to decide entire groups of people can't get green cards anymore? Where does he get the power to say certain people, if you are child of a U.S. citizen over 21, you can't get a green card. If you're a spouse of a permanent resident, no more green cards for you. Where does he get the power to do this? Because it is Congress that makes the law, and it's President Trump that administers the law. And he can't just decide. I don't know where it says in any law or in the Constitution where he can just decide, I choose not to enforce the law, and I also choose to change the law without even Congress getting involved. And in essence, Moshe said to me, he said, well, he signed it. He took the power. He said it's going to happen, and nobody's saying anything to him otherwise. So I'm waiting for all of these aggrieved groups. I'm not a constitutional attorney. I'm an immigration attorney, but there are constitutional attorneys out there that are going to bring legal actions against Donald Trump, because I think it's just an obscene power grab by the president and totally usurping the powers of Congress and the separation of powers between Congress and the president. But we'll talk about that more later. Meanwhile, we wanted to talk about this yesterday. I did not get on the air yesterday, so we'll be talking about it today. Yesterday was Tamir Rice's birthday. Now, Tamir Rice would have turned 18 years old yesterday. I'm sure most people remember that in 2014, 12-year-old Tamir was shot by a police officer at the park across the street from his house in Cleveland, Ohio. Tamir died the next day. His mother, Samaria Rice, told USA Today that the pain of Tamir's loss is still fresh in her mind. She wants her son to be remembered as a happy child with an infectious smile who liked to eat chicken nuggets, play video games, go swimming, and ride his bike around the neighborhood. It sounds like my son when he was 12. My son would eat chicken nuggets, play video games, and ride his bike. That's all he did too. Now, I sympathize. All right, any parent would sympathize. Now, since her son's death, Samaria has traveled to colleges to speak out against police brutality. In 2016, she founded the Tamir Rice Foundation, which advocates for police reform. She told USA Today she couldn't eat or sleep after the murders of Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor. She said Rashard Brooks' death reinforced her belief the police need better training. Now, she is also building the Tamir Rice Afrocentric Cultural Center in Cleveland. It will house after-school programs focused on tutoring, mentoring, arts, music, and dancing for inner-city young people. Now, I had recently spoke with Amanda D. King and Kelsey Carter of Shooting Without Bullets, a Cleveland-based art program that was created in response to the tragic murder of 12-year-old Tamir. The program is offered to teenagers and works to combat social injustices by providing an artistic outlet for Black and Brown youth. They also work with Samaria Rice and her daughter, Tahaje, who was with her brother at the time of the shooting. And let's watch a clip from our interview. What are you discussing politically with your students?
It started as a response to state-sanctioned violence after the murder of Tamir Rice. Cleveland has had decades of racial tension between the residents and the police. Police terror has been in Cleveland's legacy for a very long time, but we're looking at the contemporary moment. Right. And so when I started Shooting Without Bullets, the first response, the most immediate and urgent, was police brutality and the need for police reform, because we know that young people have the most interactions with police. Police are everywhere where young people congregate. They're in the malls, they're on the subways and trains, they're in schools, and most of our young people live in over-policed neighborhoods. But as soon as I hit the pavement, Tanisha Anderson and Tamir Rice were murdered that November, and ever since that, I've been boots on the ground.
You're also working closely with Tamir Rice's mom. Now, 5 years ago, Tamir was shot. He had like a toy gun. He was 12 years old.
It's a toy, yes.
A cop shot him right in the stomach, if I recall. And
yes, within less than 1 second.
And the sister got thrown in the back of the car. Well, she was handcuffed,
yes.
Right. So you're working with them. How did you get involved working with them?
So when I started Shooting Without Bullets, it was a response to the murder of Tamir and working with young people to get their voices at decision-making tables. And I knew that this was a time where young people really felt the weight of the oppression, the weight of the system on them physically and emotionally. And so I knew that I needed to have some type of therapeutic and cathartic process for them also. And I knew at the time somebody who was studying art therapy. And so she was doing a project with Miss Rice, and she introduced Miss Rice to me and said, Amanda's doing this great program, you should consider Tajay being in it. And Miss Rice said, I don't know. And I think one day Miss Rice had to go to court or something, and she needed to drop her off.
So she
came to the program, and it was all love. So
wow, so Tajay's gone through your program.
Yes, she is.
How is she doing?
She's a regular teenager.
Really?
That's what I would like to describe her as. I don't want to describe her trauma. I don't want to put her in the box of somebody who is not going to be able to heal or who's forever going to live this moment. She's a regular teenager. She loves to laugh. She loves to watch TV. She likes to hang out with her girlfriends. Like, that's the Tajay that I want the world to see. I mean, of course, she lost her brother in a very horrific way. She was traumatized by being handcuffed and put in the back of the police car. But as a young girl, I'd hate for me to put that narrative on her.
I'd like to say that, especially for Black and brown youth and in Cleveland, trauma unfortunately seems to be such a normal part of everyday life.
So sad.
Yeah, we just learn how to move through it.
Right. How's Tamir's mom doing, Samira?
Miss Rice, she's a powerhouse.
Yeah.
She's a force to be reckoned with. She's not looking at just the individual officers, Timothy Loman and Frank Garnback. She's looking at the whole system. The whole system, from the prosecutor to the police chief to the mayor to city council. She's looking at all of them, and she's really strategically thinking about ways to attack and say, listen, no more children dying on this soil in Cleveland, Ohio.
Right. You know, that interview was done. I was just watching it. That interview was done, I don't know, at least 8, 9, 10 months ago, well before the whole George Floyd protests in response to the George Floyd killing. And it really goes to show that there were a lot of people who were organized and promoting police reform and bringing these situations to the attention of the public. And it just unfortunately took another killing of George Floyd to basically energize everybody, not only who've been supporting this police reform and supporting Black Lives Matter, and it unfortunately took George Floyd's death to energize white people and non-minorities to open their eyes to see what's going on here in the United States of America. Now, on Wednesday, the Glynn County, Georgia grand jury indicted 3 white men arrested in the killing of African-American jogger Ahmaud Arbery. The indictment includes 9 counts against each of the 3 defendants, Travis McMichael, Greg McMichael, and William Bryan. They face malice murder, 4 counts of felony murder, 2 counts of aggravated assault, false imprisonment, criminal attempt to commit false imprisonment. The men are facing life sentences without parole. District Attorney Joyette M. Holmes said, "This is another step forward in seeking justice for Ahmaud. We will continue to be intentional in the pursuit of justice for this family and the community at large as the prosecution of this case continues." On Tuesday, the state Senate in Georgia, largely because of Arbery's killing, passed a hate crimes bill that had been approved last year by the House of Representatives. Now, Georgia has been, by the Georgia State House. Georgia has been one of 4 states without a hate crime law. Meanwhile, we were talking about the asylum and Donald Trump changing the work permit laws. And I said, well, we're going to have a election soon. Well, right now, if the election were held today, according to every credible poll, whether it's conservative polls on Fox News, liberal polls from CNN or MSNBC, Donald Trump is facing the prospect of a landslide loss, an enormous loss by Donald Trump, as well as the Senate is looking at this point that it is extraordinarily possible that the Democrats not only will be in the White House with Joe Biden, that they are going to take control of the U.S. Senate and will also keep control of the House of Representatives. Now, the election's 5 months from now, but a half a dozen new swing state polls released Thursday morning suggest that not only would President Trump lose if the election were held today, he's going to lose in a landslide. These particular surveys were conducted by the New York Times and Siena College. They show Trump trailing Joe Biden by double digits in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, by mid-single digits in North Carolina, Arizona, and Florida. They are neck and neck. Trump is neck and neck with Biden in Texas. A Quinnipiac University poll released at the start of this month had Biden within a point of Trump in Texas. Now, if Biden managed to win Texas, he'd have 395 electoral votes, the largest electoral vote haul since George Bush beat Michael Dukakis in '88. That's assuming that the Democratic states that traditionally vote Democrat are going to continue to vote Democrat, and the Republican states that continue to vote Republican will. They're swing states. This is where the election is won or lost, and there's more swing states now than in an extraordinarily long time. Who would have ever thought that a Democrat could possibly win Texas, North Carolina, Arizona, Florida? If you remember the hanging Chad from 2000, George W. Bush beat Al Gore by 9 votes because in Florida, 9 votes separated Al Gore from being president versus George W. 9 votes in Pennsylvania. Imagine how the world would have been different. Would we have gone to war in Iraq if Al Gore was president of the United States? I doubt it. And what a different world we would be in. And it was 9 voters in Florida, or 30 voters in Florida, but it was under 100 voters in Florida with hanging Chads. They were debating hanging Chads all the way up to the Chad being the little piece of paper hanging from the punch-in card, all the way up to the Supreme Court of the United States. Had Gore won Florida, he would have been president. Now, for Biden to win, he just needs, and assuming the Democrats, Democratic states stay Democrat, and there's no reason not to believe New York's going to vote Republican. There's no reason to believe California's going to vote Republican. Biden just needs one of these states to win, and he's winning in all of them right now: Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Arizona, Florida, and Texas. And Texas, he's even with Trump right now. Meanwhile, Trump administration has told the Supreme Court of the United States that Obamacare must fail. Now, this is all despite surging coronavirus cases and the fact that 500,000 Americans have turned to Obamacare during the pandemic. Trump administration doesn't care. They have reaffirmed its position that the Affordable Care Act, which everyone knows as Obamacare, is unconstitutional. They have this is now the 3rd case going up to the Supreme Court by a Republican administration trying to get rid of Obamacare. Now, the Trump administration is claiming that Obamacare is illegal because Congress eliminated the individual tax penalty for failing to purchase medical insurance. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said in a statement, President Trump and the Republicans campaign to rip away the protections and benefits of the Affordable Care Act in the middle of a coronavirus crisis. That is unfathomable, and that is cruel. The case before the High Court began with a lawsuit calling for the elimination of Obamacare brought by 20 states led by Texas, which, by the way, is leading the United States right now in coronavirus. The lawsuit bears the name, actually, Texas versus the United States. Now, Texas, as I said, has the highest, I didn't say this, but Texas has the highest uninsured rate in the country. Before the Affordable Care Act was passed in 2010, it still has the highest uninsured rate of people who do not have medical insurance in the United States of America. And this is because Texas does not participate in the expansion of Medicaid. Despite all of this, and despite Texas leading the United States right now, or about to lead the United States right now in coronavirus, they're the ones who want to get rid of Obamacare. Now, according to the Federal Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, enrollment in Texas in Obamacare is 1.12 million people. Yet Texas, in the middle of coronavirus, and they're actually closing down parts of Texas now. They're not allowing people in bars because it's rampant in Texas. The Texas Attorney General wants to take 1.12 million people's health insurance away. Now, it's just crazy. It is just, I want to go now. I don't even know what to say about it. It's so crazy. Meanwhile, according to the statistics from the Johns Hopkins University, there are now over 9.6 million. And by the way, that's why Joe Biden is going to kill Trump in a landslide, unless something drastically happens. Unless coronavirus miraculously disappears, like Trump says, it's going to disappear. Whoosh! Miracle. Abracadabra. Abracadabra, it disappears. Or unless everybody finds a job in the next 5 months, I don't see how Trump wins. So meanwhile, according to statistics from Johns Hopkins University, there are over 9.6 million coronavirus cases worldwide. More than 491,000 people have died. The United States set a daily record for coronavirus cases yesterday in a return to figures not seen since last April. According to data collected by Johns Hopkins University and Johns Hopkins University Coronavirus Resource Center, 40,000 new cases were recorded on June 25th. The United States continues to lead the world in both cases and deaths. And in its first briefing in weeks, the White House Coronavirus Task Force today renewed calls for vigilance. As a matter of fact, I think what they want to do, which would be a very smart thing on behalf of the United States, is it's all about testing people. And the reason that, and you say, well, how does Germany and Israel, both countries, Germany bigger than Israel, but both countries have very, very few coronavirus cases. And how are they being able to test so many people? They're doing these pooling of tests. So basically what they're doing is they're taking 30 samples from 30 different people, putting it together in one test tube and seeing if that test tube comes back positive and negative. If it comes back negative, they don't have to test all 30 people. If it comes back positive, then they go and test all 30 people. And they're able to then take, with a limited testing capability, multiply the number of tests that they can do in any given day by 30 times. So they're testing millions and millions of people every day by doing this pooling. And I think, one of the things that this coronavirus task force is looking into, and which I think is a smart thing, I've read up on it, not that I'm a scientist, is to do these pooling of coronavirus tests. And we can talk about it more if the United States actually decides to do it. But what's amazing is we haven't heard from the coronavirus task force in a while. Trump wanted to get rid of coronavirus task force. If he doesn't talk about the coronavirus anymore, it doesn't exist. That was his thinking. If he doesn't talk about it, it doesn't exist. If you go to Fox News, they don't talk about coronavirus. If you go to Fox News right now, coronavirus is probably the 10th or 15th, maybe the 20th story on their website. They never talk about coronavirus. Why? Because if we don't talk about it, it doesn't exist. It's a farce. It's a fraud. Meanwhile, the only fraud is Donald Trump, where he's president of the United States. 200,000 people are going to die from coronavirus before September 30th. We went to a war in Vietnam and we lost a lot of good men, 50 some odd thousand men. And we say that is a tragedy. Yet 200,000, and that was a war that took 7-8 years. 200,000 people are going to die in the United States before the end of September, between March and September in 6 months. And people are walking around like coronavirus doesn't exist. You look at Fox News, it's the 15th story on their website. This is Donald Trump says we're going to disband the coronavirus task force. Why? Because if we don't talk about it every day, it doesn't exist. Meanwhile, the 3 most populous states set records this week for daily new coronavirus cases, and there are fears of an apocalyptic surge in major cities. Texas, as we talked about, announced Wednesday that they recorded more than 5,000 new coronavirus cases today. California reported more than 7,000. The only good news, if there is any good news about coronavirus, is that we have a lot of smart doctors and a lot of smart nurses who have figured out, I believe, how to treat people with coronavirus. Where that doesn't mean they're going to save every last person, but I believe the protocols for treatment, they know how to deal with people better than when they did in the beginning. I've spoken to a lot of doctors who feel very confident that the percentage of people who are going to die, although coronavirus is going in the United States, although coronavirus is still going to kill a lot of people, but the percentage is going to go down because we know how to treat better. Now, to give you an idea how bad coronavirus is in California, Disney is postponing the reopening of Disneyland, which has been planned for July 17th. And that is the 65th anniversary, the opening day of Disneyland Park. So they're not going to be open on their anniversary. And no new opening date has been announced. Florida has reported 9,000 positive cases on Thursday. However, Disney World in Florida is still set to reopen on July 11th. Now, in Texas, if the current case trajectory continues, Houston was going to be the hardest hit city in the United States with numbers rivaling Brazil. And Dr. Peter Hotez, the dean of the National School of Tropical Medicine at the Baylor College of Medicine, told CNN's Anderson Cooper, the big metro areas seem to be rising very quickly, and some of the models are on the verge of being apocalyptic. Now, Texas Governor Greg Abbott announced yesterday that the state's going to pause any further reopening of its economy. The state also saw 47 new fatalities, bringing the cumulative number of deaths in Texas to 2,296 people. Texas was among the first states to begin reopening. Many businesses are back in operation, but Governor Abbott did halt elective surgeries in 4 of the state's largest counties. Houston's Texas Medical Center, often referred to as the largest medical center in the world, showed that its ICU beds for coronavirus were at 97% of normal capacity, which means they can only hold a couple, maybe 100 more people who need ventilators, who need to be in the ICU, God forbid. Arizona and New Mexico also joined Texas in holding off on reopening efforts amid the surge in coronavirus. Now, in the midst of Texas's surge, the White House announced plans to end federal funding for 13 community-based coronavirus testing sites. The move, confirmed by NBC News, affects 7 sites in Texas. The 6 others are in Illinois, New Jersey, Colorado, and Pennsylvania. What the hell? Why are they doing this? I don't have the slightest idea. Yesterday, the CDC said coronavirus cases in the United States may be 10 times higher than previously reported. The assessment comes from looking at blood samples across the country for the presence of antibodies. Dr. Jay Butler said that the virus, he's the head of the COVID response at the CDC, said that there is not an exact cutoff of age at which people should or should not be concerned. But Dr. Robert Redfield, the director of the CDC, said the virus causes so much asymptomatic infection. The traditional approach of looking for symptomatic illness and diagnosing it obviously is totally misunderstood. Just something funny because it's Friday. I don't know if you saw about the Amazon driver and captured in the delivery of a box to a Lynn Stafari, and this was in Delaware. A Delaware mom recently shared a video from her Nest camera showing an Amazon driver going above and beyond. Lynn Stafari's 13-year-old son, Jacob, included a very unusual instruction for the delivery. in Amazon. You could always put, when you do the Amazon, you could always say, they say additional instructions, walk up this, where, my front door is on the second flight, or whatever it is that, additional instructions to get your package. Well, Jacob wrote for the additional instructions: knock on the door 3 times and scream abracadabra as loud as you can and run super fast away. Let's watch what the delivery. Abracadabra! So she actually did it. So Stafari said the driver's attention to detail made the whole family smile. Jacob's order was a playpen for kittens they're fostering at their home. And that is our schmooze for the day. We got to get into our immigration questions. Let's see what we've got going. Before we get into our immigration questions, I do got to make a couple reminders to everybody. Monday, if all goes well, we're going to be in the studio welcoming back Jonathan, Dr. Love, Yo-Yo Elias, and Nesquik, also known as Boss Lady, in our studios on Monday. We're going to have a regular Brad Show live. We will not be in Uncle Brad's dining room table any longer. So please make sure you tune in at 5:30 Brad Show live time, which will probably be closer to 6 o'clock, for our return to the studio with all of my co-hosts and the entire crew. I also got to remind everybody to please share, start your watch parties, subscribe on YouTube, like and follow us on Facebook. Take that great thumb and make it blue. We have 86 people watching on YouTube, only 30 thumbs up. Also, don't forget about our free consultation giveaway every Wednesday on Brad Show Live on Instagram. All you got to do is find the picture of me holding the trophy for Best Web Series, like that post, tag 5 friends, and you will be included in our hat. That's not our hat, it's actually my hat, to possibly win a free consultation with me. There's a telephone number scrolling below if you need to reach me for any reason. 1-800-529-5465. That's 212-227-8933 for people outside of the United States. And after I answer the questions, we are going to be later hearing from Cecil J. Williams, who has documented the civil rights movement in South Carolina since the 1950s. With that, let's say abracadabra, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Where should we start first? Let's start on YouTube. Let's see what's going on YouTube with immigration questions. Says, before I do that, I think we have to say getting answers to your immigration questions in pandemic pop-up immigration questions and answers. All right, so Shanfell says, Uncle Brad, what do you think about persons traveling to the United States now from a different country on a B2, B1 visa? Well, if you have a visa, you can come, unless you are coming from Europe, Brazil, I think China. There's a ban on China. There's a ban on Brazil. There's a ban from Europe. But if you're not from one of those countries that you could get on a plane, welcome. Nit D says, I'm a U.S. citizen. I filed for my father and mother. The case was on the National Visa Center level, waiting appointment. Does the the proclamation affect if one should file again, since it will pass a year on the National Visa Center level? Well, if you're a U.S. citizen filing for your mother and father, the proclamation does not affect immediate relatives. So you can file for your parents, you can file for your spouse, you can file for your children under 21. It's all people on the visa waiting list. Tajaz Dezay says, hello, Brad, sir. I was documentarily qualified on January 2nd, 2020, and the ban is still to the 31st of December 2020. Sir, does my father-in-law have to apply again, as it will be 1 year at the National Visa Center level? I don't think you should. So this is a situation where your parents filed for you. You should not have to reapply again. They'll hold it at the National Visa Center level. Even after 1 year, they'll send you a letter saying, in essence, you have not applied for your visa within 1 year. Please give us a good reason, and please apply for it now, and we'll reopen your case. You could also write them a letter if, as it comes close to a year, asking them to hold your case open because of coronavirus, et cetera, the proclamations, whatever else may be. Madachara Ramakrishna. Hi, Brad. I got my I-360 approval notice and my initial grant of deferred action for 15 months. My I-45 is still pending. I have a new EAD with C-31 with the I-131. Is it safe to travel now? It affects the VAWA green card process. I guess you're talking about the proclamation does not affect the VAWA green card process. You can travel on advanced parole. Ulysia Melendez with a question. I filed a mandamus in New York City. What can I expect? It's going to be fast when they reopen. If you filed a mandamus, you should expect to go before a federal judge, explain why your rights are being violated, and hopefully the federal judge will agree with you and force the government to make a decision on your case. So I hope that's what happens. Daniel K. With a question. Hello, Brad. Can you say a little who affected or not with the new proclamation? Yeah, basically anybody who's adjusting their status here is not affected. So if you can adjust your status here, you have no effect. And it also does not affect immediate relatives. So if you are married to a U.S. citizen, you're a child under 21 of a U.S. citizen, you're the parent of a U.S. citizen. Otherwise, it affects you. Let's see. Yizban Yibisan. Hi, Brad. Keep up the good work. It's been 2 years since my friend applied for change of status. She has not heard any news from immigration. What should she do? Is it change of status or adjustment of status? Either way, it seems like it's a very long time. I think you should give me a call. The number is on the bottom. Tell your friend to call me. I'm not sure what the problem is. I don't know what she's doing, but 2 years seems like a long time. She should have a lawyer look into the case. Luli Andinogen. Hello, Brad. My son moved from where I lived in my home country, and that's the address on his I-130. I'm filing for him. Am I going to change his address in my home country on the USCIS website to his new address? You can do that. You can change it on the USCIS website. You can write a letter to USCIS. You can also wait for the approval notice to come from for the I-130. It'll be sent to the National Visa Center, and you can tell the National Visa Center he moved. Miguel Jaramello took his question away. Oh, no, here it is. She moves out of the house, and I have not seen my son in 6 months since he was born. I did file for child support. Yeah, but you took your first half of your question away, so I don't know what the question is. Dennis Kakambo. Hi, Brad. I called USCIS, and they told me that they have transferred my case from Boston to Texas after the interview. What does that mean? It means that they're going to make a decision out of Texas. They probably have to just follow for your security clearances. That's most likely what it's going to be. Let's see on Facebook what's going on Facebook, if we have any immigration questions on Facebook today. Al Joby with a question. Hi, Uncle Brad. My cousin had an interview back in December 2019 for N400, and after the interview, he was told they could not make a decision that day and have not heard since. What can he do next? Well, if it's more than 120 days, you can do what's called a de novo review, which is take the file out of the hands of the Immigration Service, bring it into federal court, and tell a federal court judge to decide. And the federal court judge is going to decide pretty fast. That's the fastest way to become a citizen, do a de novo review. You're allowed to do that within 120 days after an interview if they don't make a decision. Ragadan asking for a friend. Hi, Mr. Brad. I'm asking for a friend. If his VAWA case was denied 2 weeks ago, what can he do now? He has one felony charge. Can I tell him to give you a call to try to work what's best for him? Yeah, I would. If his VAWA was denied, he has a criminal record, I would be calling Uncle Brad. I don't know what I'm going to do for him, but that would be the first thing I would be doing. Sam Yemen with a question. Hello, Brad. When I sued the USCIS for delay and got no reply, what is the next step? Thank you for your cooperation. you sued them for delay, you got to get a reply because you're in federal court. So maybe you have not sued them for delay. Maybe you threatened to sue them for a delay. Those are two different things. I think you need to see me. Let's see what else we have here. Stargirl Mika, Brad, if filling out the visa application form on the National Visa Center website, you make a mistake on one of the applicant's children's date of birth. He was born January 5th and they put January 4th. Would that be a problem? This child is not on the application, won't be traveling with the applicant. Is that a problem or delay? No, when the applicant goes for the interview, they can just say, I made a mistake on my child's birth. It was January 5th is the birthday, not 4th. Can you just fix it? And that's perfectly fine. Zeneb Zendenref with a question. Hi, Brad. How long does it take to approve the I-360, I-45 VAWA since 2018? It's a 2-year process, so hopefully you'll get approved shortly. Prandeep Ram with a question. Uncle Brad, I'm a VAWA applicant. My previous work permit expired last year. I was not employed since 2019. I've applied for EAD. I filed my taxes for 2018, 2019. Can I file for pandemic unemployment assistance? There's no negative impact from USCIS. You can get any unemployment assistance that you're entitled to. Gordon Jemiah. Hi, Brad. How does a child age out in a petition? Do the age starts freezing from the day a petition is received by USCIS or when a petition is approved? Child ages out when they're 21. That's when a child ages out. They have something called the Child Status Protection Act, which protects children from not aging out, and it's very petition dependent. It depends on what category you're filed in, whether the child is the main beneficiary, a derivative beneficiary, and how long the actual I-130 took to get approved. So it's very, very fact dependent on that particular case. So I can't tell you a general rule, but if you give me the actual facts, I can then apply multiple different rules and figure out what it is. Is USCIS still sending out letters for biometric appointments for persons in New Jersey? Damian Farquharson says they should be, yes. Let's see what else we have here. Ichiwuka Charles Felix. I have a $1,000 medical bill as a student. Would it affect my adjustment of status? It should not affect. Having a medical bill should not affect you adjusting your status. Now, with that being said, I recently spoke with Cecil J. Williams, an American photographer, publisher, author, and inventor. Cecil has documented the civil rights movement in South Carolina since the 1950s. In this iconic photograph, Cecil is 19 years old, drinking out of a whites-only fountain. Cecil is now 82 and the founder of the Cecil Williams Civil Rights Museum and Institute for Social Innovation in Orangeburg, South Carolina. Cecil has had an incredible life and career, and we discussed a lot during our interview, which will be posted in long form on our Brad Show Live social media pages. But we've been playing shorter portions of our interview on the show. Today, Cecil tells me how he began his photojournalist career at age 14 for Jet Magazine and some of the major civil rights events he has covered. Let's check it out. You were photographing for Jet Magazine when you were 14 years old. How did they find out about you?
Well, Jet Magazine came into Orangeburg, South Carolina because of what was happening here among the people that was very unusual. We had started the strategy of boycott merchants that put pressure on African American here. And that was our means of, again, striking out and beginning to become confrontational with the system. My parents had endured the system through accommodation, but I was beginning to become a part of that generation where we actually confronted the system and were beginning to be engaged in marching and demonstrating. And of course, when Jet found that we were using this kind of strategy in Orangeburg, they decided that they needed someone continuously on the ground in Orangeburg, and I became one of the about 20 correspondents beginning at 14 years old.
One of your photographs made the cover of Jet Magazine. When was that, and what was that photograph?
In working for Jet, probably around 15 or 20 years, I only made one cover. It was always something that those correspondents who worked for Jet wanted to do. It was always, our eyes were on the prize of making the front cover.
That's like your Super Bowl trophy.
For me, it did not happen until 1969. And this
was okay.
A year after the death of the Reverend Martin Luther King. The people in Charleston, South Carolina, especially with the hospital workers, found themselves in a situation where they only were receiving half as much as their white counterparts who were doing the same job they were. Right. And they started a boycott and march and demonstrations in Charleston. And Mrs. King, Andrew Young, and many other civil rights leaders at that time came to Charleston to engage in that. And my picture of Mrs. King on the front cover of Jet, wearing the hat of the local union that supported the Black workers who really wanted to make the same wages as everyone else because they did the same job.
There's also an iconic photograph of you when you were 19 years old, drinking from a whites-only water fountain. What is the story behind this photograph, and who took it?
A friend of mine and I went to the coast of South Carolina where there was going to be a test of the segregated facilities and also places like even the Atlantic Ocean. And they prohibited African Americans from either going to the beach front. And so the president of the South Carolina NAACP, Ida Quincy Newman, was going to test that. And my friend and I, Rendell Harper, we went to photograph that. On the way back, we got thirsty and we stopped at a filling station, and I took a picture of him drinking out of the white-only water fountain. He took a picture of me.
His photograph of you became the famous one.
Yes, I think I haven't been able to find my picture that I took of him.
Oh, that was it. All right. I didn't realize it was going to be that short. I was watching. Meanwhile, you can find out more about the Cecil Williams Civil Rights Museum and Institute for Social Innovation by going to www.cecilwilliams.com. Let's go back to some immigration questions on YouTube. KA has a question. Says, hi, Brad. If you travel back to the United States with advanced parole, is your admission date start over? I guess you're talking about it's important how long you've been in the United States. God forbid you get put in deportation. I think that's probably what you're asking about. For cancellation or removal, you have to be here for 10 years. For somebody who doesn't have a green card, for non-LPR. So, for example, if you came on a tourist visa 9 years ago or 10 years ago, and then you travel on advanced parole, as long as it's a short, innocent trip, you're still considered to have entered the United States 10 years ago on a tourist visa. So it all depends on having a short, innocent trip abroad. Returning on advanced parole does not start your admission date over. Pam Willis, any updates on VAWA? The update is they're processing them. Miguel Jamarillo, I married an undocumented girl because I got her pregnant, but she then used our son against me and stated if I don't fix her legal status, she's not going to let me see her son. Well, you can go into family court and get custody of your child. You can get visitation rights, and it has nothing to do with whether you marry her or not. So don't let anybody, get, good lesson to learn. Don't get don't get threatened. There's things you can do. I was going to talk also about getting pregnancy too, but we'll leave that for another day. Beige with a question. Hi, Brad. I'm currently waiting for my work permit, the adjustment of status based on marriage. My O1 visa is about to expire and I want to continue working. The expedite EAD soon question. Is being furloughed considered employed? No, furloughed is not considered employed, but you're in status because you filed an adjustment, so don't worry about it. P.S. I don't know who. Oh, P.S. is the person. I thought this was a P.S. from somebody else. P.S. is the person. My brother, a spouse of a U.S. citizen, is waiting for an immigrant visa interview. Does he need to fill out a public charge questionnaire form at the time of the interview? He's going to fill it out beforehand. Deborah Chow is an undocumented immigrant approved to I-129. What does he do? He can't do much because he can't get his status. Can't go home to get it. And you can't change your status here. Got a problem. That undocumented immigrant should be calling me. Yizban is adjustment of status after marriage with U.S. citizen. That's a statement. When can we call you? You can call me right now, 1-800-529-5465. We have people standing by to answer the call. And you'll get put on my list, and I will call you back, make an appointment to either call you back tomorrow or Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday. So call now, 1-800-529-5465. Rupan Thakador, of course, one of the most popular people in the world, always has a friend. Hi, one of my friends waiting for asylum decision from judge in New York. So please, can you let me know when the asylum court is open in New York? It's supposed to be opening right after the July 4th weekend. Dennis Kembo, if I am a student and I just got married to a green card holder while I was already had a social while being an international student, how long would it take for me to get full-time work? If you are in legal status right now on the student visa and you're married to a resident, you can file an adjustment right now, today, and you can get a work permit in about 4 to 5 months. Dennis Kakembo, if I'm a student and I just got, I answered that. Also, Dave Kamachari, Brad, will reckless driving back in 2011 impact a green card application? I paid a $50 fine. No, that's just being a bad driver. P.S. with another question, what type of visitor's medical insurance we need to buy for immigrant visa applicant, and what is minimum required coverage amount? There's no minimum, just have medical insurance. Dennis Kakembo, Brad, they transferred my case 6 months after the interview in January. They transferred my case from field office in Boston to Texas. Well, eventually they'll make a decision. If you want more help, you can give me a call. Let's go to Mija. I married an undocumented girl because I did her pregnant, but we already talked about that. Let's see. Sandra Smith. Hi, Brad. My daughter has been here for a while now. She's been out of status. She, however, has 2 children born here. I'm about to file for my citizenship and want to know if I can file for her. Of course you can file for her. Why not? You can file for her even now as a permanent resident because she's unmarried. Novalette Johnson. Hi, Brad. I'm waiting to be rescheduled for my oath ceremony. I have filed for my daughter in Jamaica 2016. Her priority date is February 2017. I paid all the fees. So when will she join me here? She's 25. Well, right now there's Novalette Johnson. She's 25. I don't know when she's going to be able to come because there's a Trump proclamation that's barring her from coming. And by the way, we're going to answer a few more immigration questions. And we're going to get to there is a second part of the Cecil J. Williams interview that we want to play today. So we will be playing that very shortly, but we want to answer the rest of our immigration questions. At least she won't be here at least till after the election, until January. Hopefully Joe Biden will lift the proclamation. Hopefully Trump, God forbid, if he's elected again, and God forbid that's the case, doesn't continue it past December 31st. Hopefully there's a lot of constitutional civil rights immigration lawyers out there, federal litigators, who are going to go sue Trump. We're going to go sue Trump for basically grabbing power that he's not allowed to have. Galib Khan with a question. Hello, Brad. If you received a form EOIR 27, what does that mean? And what if you fail to respond within 15 days? That means that that's a notice from the immigration courts, but I'm not sure what is written on that notice. Mija, so you should call a lawyer. Mija, I filed for child support. I have visitation rights. I want to be part of the baby's life. I didn't kick her out. He's just giving more information. So family court will, if you're a decent human being, family court will give you visitation rights. You have a right to see your baby. It has nothing to do with whether or not you sponsor the mother of the child or whether you marry the mother of your child. So any event, we had shown a little bit of Cecil J. Williams earlier. We want to finish my interview with him. Let's watch the conclusion of our interview with Cecil J. Williams. This is me patiently waiting for Cecil J. Williams. It's nothing like dead air. All right. Well, we'll do the rest of Cecil J. Williams. We'll do the rest of Cecil J. Williams on Monday and Tuesday. And also, you could also catch next week. We'll probably post all over our social media the full interview with Cecil J. Williams. By the way, he's a really amazing man. I mean, had lived such an amazing life and lived a life that was very, very important to the civil rights movement in the 1960s. So, especially what's going on with everything going on today, it's really, really important that people should inform themselves about what's going on today is based on what happened in the past. So it would be amazing for everybody to watch that. I really strongly urge you to do that. There were some immigration questions. On YouTube that I'm told we want to answer, that were left in some comments before our show. Maher Lakai had a question, sir. Our priority date is 28 August 2006. Our case is F4. We received. Tell me a little bit about desegregation of Clemson University in 1963. What was your involvement in any of that?
Harvey Gantt, a few years later, that my interest in going to Clemson, also wanted to be an architect. Harvey Gantt did, through the courts, become the first person of color to go to Clemson University. And it was my great pleasure, again, not being able to go to Clemson, but then one of the three African Americans on the campus of Clemson University. At the time, he became the first person of color to integrate a school of higher education in South Carolina. South Carolina handled the integration of Harvey Gantt with dignity. However, it was done in a very tight security because in Mississippi and Alabama, there were all kinds of protests going on.
Yeah. Mississippi's famous for not welcoming Black students, I think, into their schools.
Right. Harvey Gantt handled it. Of course, I was there early that morning. I remember a very cold morning when he arrived on the campus. And then I had to take my photographs or my film and then rush off to Jet Magazine. And then it resulted in a 7-page story on Harvey Gantt. You
also covered the 1968 Orangeburg massacre. That's your hometown. What happened there?
So in 1968, 3 years after Congress has passed laws that allow people of color to really go where they wanted to. Bowling alleys of America were open, but not in Orangeburg, South Carolina in 1968. It was a bit of resistance. Students at South Carolina State University in Claflin and Wilkinson High School wanted to change that. And an event occurred that is now referred to as the Orangeburg Massacre, where 3 students were killed by law enforcement in the attempt, again, to integrate a bowling alley. Again, just like it is today, erupting all over this country. 9 highway patrolmen at about 9:30 on the evening of February the 8th loaded their shotguns with double-aught shotgun shells and marched into a crowd of 250 students and began firing for 9 or 10 seconds, wounding 37 and killing 3. This story is not as well known as that of Kent State, which also had similar protests where students were killed. But Kent State is better known, and it is, again, part of history. But the Orangeburg Massacre is not known quite as well as, again, events like that.
Why do you think that is?
Sometimes there were actually news blackouts where things happening in Orangeburg were just not really reported. My picture on the front cover of the New York Times, where 388 students were arrested. We made that national spotlight, but again, just fell back out of being, nationally recognized as a place where there were, countless numbers of demonstrations and unrest due to, again, the segregation and the rigidation of the Deep South.
What was it like being arrested for a civil rights violation?
Actually, I was not arrested in the situation where I took the pictures. I was arrested earlier in 1961 and 62. Again, protests in downtown Orangeburg, South Carolina, and the police authorities arrested me first, took my camera away from me, took the film out, threw my camera in the back trunk of their car, and then took me to jail.
Did you get hurt?
No, I was not hurt. They treated me okay. The minute I got in jail, I borrowed a dime, which was the cost of a telephone call at that time. And I called the Associated Press because I had contacts there, and I explained to them that, hey, I can't take any pictures for you because I'm in jail. They saw no difference between me being a protester and me being a photographer.
You've written some books.
I have actually 4 books that I did over the course of about a 30-year period, all large format, coffee table books, which shows the dignity and the people unknown mostly behind the civil rights movement and demonstrations, and people who normally are not known in our history books, but nevertheless played a very important part in the American civil rights movement.
Cecil Williams, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so again, Cecil J. Williams, think somebody doesn't like me today, but it's okay. You can find out more about Cecil Williams Civil Rights Museum and Institute for Social Innovation by going to www.cecilwilliams.com. And I just lost my paper. We had some quick questions here from YouTube. Sir, our priority date is 28 August 2006. Our case is F4. We received qualified letter on November 5th, 2019. How much time do we have to wait? You're eligible for your green card, but for the proclamation. Namtona asks a question. My mother applied for me on 20 April 2016. My category is F2B. How many more days do I have to wait? You're about a year away on the waiting list, but also we have a proclamation. And Carlos Nole has a question. I have TPS. My work is closed since 3 months because of the pandemic. I'm scared to apply for unemployment and take the $600. I don't want the government to put me as a public charge. You will not be a public charge if you take unemployment. Go get it. You shouldn't have to go out on the streets. Quickly, let's see what else we have here. Deborah Chow, is it possible to file an I-360 special immigration without me signing, because I have not signed it, but the lawyer said he's waiting for that and he does not have the receipt number? It is impossible for you to file a VAWA case without you signing it unless the lawyer forged your signature. So either the lawyer forged your signature, your lawyer is an idiot and filed an unsigned application, or your lawyer is lying to you. Any one of those three scenarios, it doesn't sound like you have a good lawyer. I would switch. Beige with a question. Can I continue working with a pending adjustment of status case received even though my O-1B expires in a week? The answer is yes, you can. Just because you are working out of status, it does not prevent you from getting a green card. You could also extend your O-1, putting an application for your O-1. You can do that right now. As soon as you file for the extension on the O-1, you can work legally for an extra 180 days if you're concerned about working out of status. But the fact that you work out of status does not prevent you from getting your green card. But if you're concerned about working out of status, file an extension on an O-1. You get an automatic extension for work authorization 180 days just from filing the I-129. Samson Edoza, hi, bread. Bread. Yeah, carbs. Don't tell me about carbs anymore. My name is Brad. I feel people are calling me bread because I'm eating too many carbs, I guess. My VAWA is approved, and I have a pending. I don't even know what I'm talking about. My VAWA is approved, and I have a pending I-45 filed by my previous spouse and was put on hold by the USCIS local office when I filed the VAWA. Now my VAWA is approved. What do I do? Contact USCIS, the officer who has your pending adjustment. Tell them you got the VAWA approved. Please schedule me for an interview. Nika on the rise. Blessing from Jamaica, Brad. You're doing a great job. God bless you, and enough respect, man. Thank you very much. James Dew, Brad, I applied for an SB1 visa in February and passed my first interview before the embassy closed. Will I be affected by the new executive order? No, you should not be affected by the new executive order because the executive order does not prevent people from getting an SB1 visa. Asser USA, this is the last question on YouTube for the day. Hello, Brad. When I sue the USCIS for delay and we got no reply, what is the next step? You have to get a reply, then you've done it wrong. You have to get an answer. So if you didn't get a reply, then you've done it wrong. Call me. That would be the next step. Sankey White, you didn't answer my question, Brad. Is it true visitors aren't allowed in the country from Jamaica? I have not heard that there's a ban from Jamaica, Sankey White. So as far as I know that a visitor from Jamaica should be able to come to the United States. Niak Eichmann, good evening, teen. I'm confused about my filing that my mom is doing for me. I'm over 21. I'm unmarried child. My priority date is July 2012. Also, I have a receipt number. When I put on my priority date, it tells me that I have 2 more years. Can that be right? Thanks in advance. Best I have a consultation, or is it best I have I think it's best you have a consultation with me, Niak. Your priority date for a 21 unmarried child over 21 is current. So let's figure out what your story is. And with that, we got to do something we like to do call, what are we calling it? We call it comments of the day. I don't even know what's going on anymore. Comments of the day. What do we have? Charisse Carey, hey, Uncle Brad, it felt weird yesterday without you live. Guess what, Charisse? It feels weird today. I don't know why. Stargirl Mika, oh, Brad, I'm going to miss your living room. That's funny, Stargirl. Carol Anderson, the Tiger Brad, you are the super lawyer, the best ever in the world. I can't wait until you're all back next week. The team Brad, thank you very much, Carol. I don't know. Maybe I'm tired today. Who knows? But I will be awake and alive on Monday. And in honor of Immigrant Heritage Month, I'm signing off the show with a video tribute to some of the many personal immigration stories people have shared with the show. Enjoy. Have a great weekend. I will see you all on Monday. Happy Friday, everybody.
My immigration story was a refugee from Somalia, came to America with a few dollars in my pocket and a hope. Went to school, college, graduated, and try to get a better bite of American dream.
So I came here, yes, when I was 10 years old. We started all the way from the bottom, like I would say collecting bottles from the garbage. That's how we started. Like my major thing is just to put a business, open my own business.
My mom actually came to New York, but when she was about 19, her mom actually lived in Puerto Rico up until she passed away.
Well, my great-grandparents came here from Trinidad, or the British West Indies as it was called, in the early 1900s. They moved straight to Harlem in a tenement. My mom was a reserve in the Army and met my dad, who's an American. They had me here in 1985, one of 5 boys. I'm a proud third-generation Trinidadian American.
Bangladesh, I come 1998. I come from here, the tourist visa, student visa, and I go school here. Plus, I do working as a restaurant management. I work 9 years in the manager. Then we quit the job. We save some money, and husband and wife together, we open this own business.
The year 1989. It's like my whole family is here. From my grandparents down, it's like, U.S. is my country. It's like, I don't know nothing really about China right now.
Somebody married me and brought me here.
I was here. I was qualified for the amnesty. So I did the amnesty. I brought all my children. It's immigrants who built this country. Even my great-great-great-great-grandfather is among them. That is why we follow up.
We love America. God bless America. Yeah. We are so grateful we're here.
I had just finished college in the Dominican Republic. I had no opportunity to work when I finished college, and I felt so frustrated. And I remember back in 2007, I moved to New York, and I overstayed my visa, just like many other immigrants that come from their countries, and I struggled a lot until my situation was resolved. What I'm trying to say to all the people out there that are going through the same struggle, everything is possible. Believe in yourself, and you're able to do it. This country gives us so many different opportunities as long as you work hard and you are determined in your dreams and the things that you want to accomplish. Sooner than later, your situation is going to get better.